Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. All right, after being off for 3 weeks, I'm so excited to get back into raiding. We have a lot to talk about, so we're just going to jump right into it. Let's introduce our panel. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up, we have Joe Bowie.
Hi, I'm Joe Bowie. I play a Worgen Fire Mage.
Next is Lorelei.
Hi, I'm Lorelei. I'm a Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Then we have Epistle.
Hello, I'm Epistle, and I am a Draenei Protection Paladin.
Yes, you are.
Hey.
Dappuccino tonight is running a little behind, so we hope she'll join us. But we do have a special guest tonight, is Jalexi. We like to call her Jelly for short.
Well, hello. I play a gnome frost mage.
So, Jelly, we're going to start off with some questions for you first. How long have you played WoW? Since what expansion?
Since the beginning of Kata, I guess it was about December in 2010, I believe it was.
And how did you come to find this raid group?
I queued for a group on Open Raid. There was a couple groups that I queued for over the holidays in 2015, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to your group, and I have been with you guys ever since.
I have to say my daughter's the one that got you invited because I said, "Oh look, here's a frost mage named Jalexi," and she goes, "Jelly!" And then from then on I knew I had to have you.
Well, I'm eternally grateful. I love your group.
Thank you. What's your favorite mount, pet, or toy box item, and why?
I don't know. It would be hard to name a favorite one because I have a favorite one almost for every alt, and they all have their purposes. Right now, the Water Strider is one of my favorites because it gets around fairly quickly, and I don't have to change mounts to raft or something like that to get across water in Legion, since there is so much water in Legion.
Yeah, I must say I think I see more Water Striders running around in Legion than anywhere else. So what's the story behind your name?
I did a random, or I was looking on the random name list, which I tend to do just to get ideas. Usually never use a name from there, but I saw a name that reminded me kind of like jelly beans, and then I saw another name that kind of ended in Lexi, and I knew a little girl that we used to call Lexi, and she was just cute as a button. And then I thought, well, let me put a spin on this, and I came up with the name Jalexi.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to jump right into rating. We've got a lot to talk about because we haven't recorded in 3 weeks, but everybody rated the first week without me, and then I picked up the last 2 weeks and I got into that. So we'll start off with Joe Bowie. How did we do that first week? And how many bosses did we get down?
Well, that first week that you were absent, we managed to down, I think we did the first 4 bosses on the first night. And then on the second night, we took a number of tries at the tree, and we got extremely close. It was just down to the wire, and we just ran out of time at the tail end of the fight, and ended up not quite finishing it in time that week. But it was a really close thing.
And Lorelei, how did you think we did on that first week?
I think we did very well. We're going through like the first 4 bosses without any problems. I think the tree is just still giving us a little bit of an issue, but we've got that down and we've actually done a really good job on our progression.
Yeah, Pistol?
Yeah, I think it was a question of getting the dance steps down, knowing where we should be standing, especially on the tree fight, and it was a good, quick flow. And even the next couple of weeks, I think we've just further solidified our ability to work well together.
Jelly, were you in on that one?
I was.
How did you think we did?
I thought we did very well. I mean, we were doing progression, and we like Jabui said, gotten it down to probably furthest that we had gotten it. And it was really funny because I believe that was the night that we all, not all of us, but some of us, myself included, started running out of the tree before the timer was up on the second time we were in the tree. And then everybody was screaming, no, 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 don't do that. You're going to die anyways, which was a good thing because I just didn't think that you hear that timer and you want to go out those doors. So, and ironically had that issue with my other raid group and I said, no, 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 no. So yeah, that was a lesson well learned.
Nice. So you're learning all around with this group and with your other group. That's pretty cool. So second week, how did we do? Did we finally get Evil Tree down? Jobui?
Yeah, that second week, well, the week before I had worked up, like tried to work up all the nuances of that fight because there's a lot to keep track of, and so we got that second week when we had a week for it to sink in. We covered over it again, and then we finally downed the tree for the first time, which was really great. And then we got to move on to scenarios a little bit, but it was it was a little bit of a rough go because I don't think I don't think anybody had fully expected us to get through the tree that night, or at least I didn't. I thought we would make it, but I didn't study up on the scenarios fight, so that one didn't go quite as well as the tree did. But it was still really, really nice to get through the tree on that night.
Well, I think the fact that you'd done all your homework and we're able to say we're doing this in this order and it was really clear, I think helped everybody know, what the priorities were and how to handle it. And I think that's a testament to your organization that really helped us do it so smoothly and so well. That's
I
a
agree.
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you stepping in there too, because I came back from my hiatus and everybody's like, okay, we changed things up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I I like to see us progress, and I know that it seemed like there was a lot of confusion that was going on when we did the tree on our first attempt there, and or well, not our first attempt, but in the week prior when we had gotten really close, or the week before that actually. I just remember there was a lot of confusion. People weren't sure about this or that, and so I was like, all right, that week I just decided I'm gonna do some research and see if I can figure out some ways to solve some of the problems that we were encountering. And I found some really good information, and I just I brought it to the group, and then everybody seemed to understand, okay, so it's going to happen this way. And I think it really helped everybody learn the rather complex ordering, well, sort of complex ordering of that fight, and like when to do things and which things to attack and that sort of stuff. So I thought that helped everybody really, and myself included, because I mean I want to progress as much as everybody else does.
Yeah, and I must say that was it just seemed a little bit easier explanation. But I also think, when we first get into some of these fights, and it may be my fault, but
It's
I think
always the hunter's fault.
yeah,
We
the
have
hunter's
established that.
fault. But I think a lot of it is I might try to portray it as being too hard, and then people get overexcited about it and kind of freak out maybe a little. And Jobui's just got more of a even tone, like, Dad, don't worry about it. Life is good.
Yeah,
I don't
I,
I
I
don't know. I think, for myself, it's not so much the information. The information is good, but until you do it, you just don't know. You can see it on in as many videos as you want, and you can, like, I've looked at videos and I'm going, oh my gosh, that's just chaotic. But once you get it down, it's just a matter of doing it, getting it down, and seeing it, and experiencing it.
And knowing the priorities firsthand, and knowing when you have to switch, and that is practice.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. It's just multiple times of wiping, and you finally learn what you're doing. Because this group's really good at adapting. If we change something that we've been doing it this way, this way, this way every week, and then somebody brings in another suggestion and says, well, if we tried it this way, let's see what it does, and bam, and we're really good at just going with the flow. So, what do you think, Lorelai?
I agree. I think it's always good to watch the videos, but to remember that like Fat Boss, for example, is a guild that's been together for a while, and they have that kind of expertise that comes with raiding with a permanent guild, and you have to get in and see it. And even with my guild, we watch Fat Boss, but we have to adapt it to our makeup because we're not always going to have the same kind of players. And you just find a way of fitting things to what what you have. And it'll work out. Sometimes you have to do it a couple times or multiple times, but you get it in the end.
Yeah. So first week we got all the way up to Evil Tree. We almost got it down. Second week we got Evil Tree down. We were all excited. That was a glorious
Yeah.
moment. And then we went on to Cenarius. And boy, I tell you, that fight, that was an interesting fight. Let's recap a little bit about what we did there. Joe Bowie?
well, with the Cenarius fight, I mean, we had struggled through parts of that fight, and like it's pretty confusing because the we weren't when we first started on the fight, we didn't really understand like what was going to come next, and so there was a little bit of unexpected things where we were trying to do some of the strategy kind of on the fly, and that was pretty tough. And I know you had watched some of the videos, and I did a little bit of research as well, and we established, like, oh, these things are all going to come in a particular order, and here's the things that we should cleanse first, and what we should be attacking first, and how we need to attack those things. And once we got that down, I think it made a huge difference in our performance in that fight because we had a general understanding where there wasn't that feeling of oh gosh, what's going to happen next. We knew what was going to happen next. It was just a matter of getting down those mechanics and getting comfortable with it, and then going through the whole fight. Which I thought I think everybody started to pick it up pretty quickly. Thought it was great.
Well, what I found interesting with this fight over a lot of the other bosses that we've raided, over the years, is that this one allowed the raid to make a choice in each step of the way. And I hadn't seen that boss mechanic, where when 2, 3 things pop up and you can cleanse one, and then depending on what you cleanse, it'll give you certain abilities. And I think that was the confusing part when we first started off, and then did a little more research, and we did a little bit better. So there is an order to it, but it's unique that I think strategies from different raid groups could be different because they may not cleanse the wisps. They may cleanse one of the dragons, or what have you, what pops. So Lorelai, I know you run with another raid group. What did you think about the strategy and how we did on it that second week?
I think the second week it went much easier when we just let the tanks go from side to side so that they had a pool, because that was the problem that we had the first week. Was the tanks were having to run the boss to the pools, and that was getting them too close to the ads, and then they heal up, and it was just much too hard for the tanks to have to do all that and then gather ads and take care of the boss and find pools and everything like that.
How about a pistol from a tank perspective?
Yeah, there was a little sort of chewing gum and juggling and trying to whistle Dixie at the same time. It was much simpler the second time around because we had a general sense of positioning. Darg and I worked out where I would keep the ads when I pulled them, and gave me enough lead time to predict where they're going to come out, how they're going to get to where I needed to tank them. And again, it's just a way of kind of creating a little order in the middle of that chaos. And once we had that down, it was much better. Yeah, for the tank perspective, it was more that you had to know where the ads were spawning, which is going to be the priority. Sometimes they don't spawn simultaneously, and I'm still getting the hang of that. Knowing that better will actually help out in the long run too.
Yeah. Now, did you and Jirag, did you switch positions, or did you always pull the ads and he was on the main boss?
I very cleverly arranged it so that he was always doing it.
Yeah, I kind of thought so.
I did not
usually he doesn't do the Dia dance.
Yeah, I decided I didn't want to do that again this time, and so I'm sure we'll switch it up at some point, but I did not want to do the same, stand in one spot and hit things. I've done that recently. I don't want to do that again.
Jilly, what did you think?
It's much of what they've said, and just trying to learn, it's mechanics, and if you do this, then this is gonna, then you have to do this or whatnot. And I thought the Joe Bowie's exclamation, or what he said about it, was very good. His explanation, sorry, about the fight, and what we were going to do. Call outs were better, this, that, and the other, which in essence allowed us to work more cohesively.
Yeah, I do give my hats off because he did a lot more research on it than I did. So second week, remind me, we didn't get him down. We spent the majority of our time just learning on him, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
we fought him. I think we got him to like 41% that week is the closest we came. So we didn't even quite get to phase 2 on that fight. We got close to phase 2, but didn't quite get there on that week.
And Jelly, you run with another group. How far is your group along?
We've not gotten to Cenarius yet, and we just downed the tree on Wednesday. So we're still struggling. I was able to bring some things that we had done as far as like when the blobs should go up to the tree, because I think they were holding off a little too long bringing the blobs up. They were, instead of bringing them up after the tentacles were up, they bring them like after the is it the terror? Is
The
that
horror,
it?
yeah.
But the horror is down, and too many people die because of that kiting and just the constant corruption and this, that, and the other. So once that we started settling into that seemed to go a little bit better. And so I'm actually bringing things in from our raid group to that raid group.
Awesome. All right, so let's go on to this weekend, Friday and Saturday's raid. I will say that, boy, we smoked them. We smoked them. That's all I'm going to start off with. Joe Boo, I'm going to let you kind of step through it.
Well, the first night, we got through the first 5 bosses. We made it all the way through the tree on the first night. Every boss was single pull, and sometimes we had to kind of herd the cats along because after a fight sometimes we kind of stand around a little bit and chit chat sometimes, but we just kept moving and we just plowed through the first 5 bosses, got all the way through the tree all the way to Cenarius, and we got a single pull on Cenarius on that night. And then second night came back and we did a few polls on Cenarius where we were kind of cleaning up the strategy and working out a few things, and we got our pattern of movement down nicely, and people started getting it, which is really nice to see, because you can tell, in those early polls of Cenarius before that, there was a lot of like chaotic, people scrambling all over the place, and in that second night there, people started being a little bit more cohesive, and there was less like panic stricken running around all over the place going on, and and we got through it, and then of course we moved on to Xavius and got him on the first poll, which was awesome.
Yes, I just, it was amazing. Now, to be fair, we did bring in a couple of ringers on the Cenarius
And
fight,
that helped. Oh,
and
man.
it definitely helped.
It wasn't intentional, though. That it just happened to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we were struggling a little bit, and we just need a little bit more push, and we were a little light on healers to start with. I think we only had 3, and then another person came online, and then another one, and then somebody knew somebody, and they brought them in, and we're really flexible that way. And they were actually running heroic Cenarius, so to them this was nothing, So I'm sure their gear level and everything really helped. But I do want to say one thing, though, that on the spider boss for this last weekend, I lived all the way to the end.
Yay!
Very
Congratulations.
I have never made it past the first platform because I never seem to make it to the second one without dying somewhere. I even tried stealing one of the feathers and trying to jump across, and I couldn't do that either. I jumped and missed. So I'm very proud of myself. I made it. So Lorelei, what did you think? We got all the way through all the bosses. What's your outtake?
Did. That was great. Yeah, I think the last 2 bosses really are about the mechanics and getting them done correctly. And we actually got a little messy on the last one, but we got him down, and that's always a feel good moment.
Yeah, I'm not going to say we're going to do that again next weekend. I think it'll be progression for us, but it was good to get it down.
Yeah, that Cenarius fight too. The whole floor was covered, and there was, I think, 3 or 4 of us that were alive over at the boss in this tiny little space that we had that we could stand in, and it was another one of those heart-pounding moments. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a great way to end on a high. So Epistle, were you the last tank alive on that, or was it Durag?
On Cenarius, I was actually up and down quite a bit on that one, actually. And in fact, I think we had an emergency B-res which I think saved the raid, because Durag was about to go down, and someone B-resed me. I did a pull-off and survived for a few seconds.
So what was your outtake on the rest of it? I mean, what did you think? Do you think we did pretty well?
Well, I think it is. I think we did very well indeed, and I think we'll be. I'm actually fairly optimistic we'll be successful, because there's nothing like seeing the fight, how it works, and how to do it well, even with a little extra sort of booster help. So I think we'll be able to pick up from there, and we know what it looks like now, and I think that's going to help us tremendously.
Yeah, and I know Durag had said that, I'm the one that caused that. I didn't have a cooldown, but now that he knows he needs to save that cooldown, I think you're right. I think we'll get through it. We just got to get through Xavius again, which I think we can.
I actually think the Xavius fight is easier than the Cenarius fight. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
I think the Cenarius fight is the hardest of the whole raid, actually.
I do too.
Is that just because of everything that's going on?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that, and like each of those things is a different mechanic. And then when we get to phase 2, everybody's got their thing in that fight. The healers are are trying to charge up under the tree. The DPS are trying to kill the right things in the right order and do lots and lots of interrupts. The tanks are, trying to keep everything, from killing people, and then at the end, I mean, they've got to manage how much of the floor gets covered with that stuff and move the boss the correct distance, and then the ranged have to stay on top of Malfurion to make sure he's free so that we can get cleansed of the stacks that we've got. It's just there's a lot going on in that fight, and if something goes wrong in the middle of that, it can easily turn into a wipe.
So let's pose that question. Hardest boss of the entire dungeon, or the entire raid, sorry. Jilly, what do you think?
I definitely think Cenarius. And that may change once we start to get things down.
Yeah, it's always it always gets a little easier. Lorelei, what do you think?
I actually think the tree boss is, just because you've got so many other things and you're on that very tight timer with getting in and out of the tree.
Okay. And as from a tank, what do you think, Epistle?
I actually think Spider Boss is the most chaotic of them all, because you got multiple platforms, and you can, as happened last week, you can go to the wrong platform by mistake and really have to fight to catch up.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it feels that just has so many ways that it can go wrong. Even still, you can slip off the side, you can jump the wrong way, you can get caught in a tornado. It's still pretty chaotic.
Okay, Joe Bowie, after all the bosses, which one do you think's the most difficult?
I've got to stick with Cenarius. That boss, even knowing what to do, it can still be, a little bit hairy. And, I think the tree's a close second, but, definitely I'm going to stick with Cenarius on that.
But I remember when we thought the very first pull of our very first boss was tough. Oh, wait, yeah.
Well, it was heroic.
It was.
Yes, that's true.
It was heroic with not everybody geared up, so that was pretty rough. I think we could actually do the first couple bosses on heroic.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, that was the next thing I was just going to question you. So since we've been through all of the bosses, every time you go through it, then you want to up your level and go through them again. So what do you think next week's raid we should do? Should we start off, get a lockout done to a certain boss and then continue, get the last ones down and then go heroic? What do you guys think? Lorelei?
I think we should. I think we shouldn't wait. I mean, we decided that a while ago to wait, but I think that we're doing so well on the first 3 that I don't think we'd have a problem with the first one at all.
So do you think we should put a lockout after the third one and lock out on the 4th boss and start from there?
Yeah.
Go as far as we can and then switch over? Or should we start off with heroic, do the first 2, and then switch back to normal?
We could definitely try that too. And if it doesn't work out, then we've still got the rest of the night to work on those bosses again.
Joe Bowie, what do you think?
I think that we should run heroic on our Friday nights, and get as far as we can get, progressing in heroic on our Friday nights. And then, if we get to a certain point, like on that night, we decide, okay, if we're close on a boss, maybe we decide on the next Saturday, we come back and we try that boss again on heroic. Or if we're just not feeling it, like we don't feel like we're going to get it on that second night, we maybe need to get a little bit more geared. Then we go back to normal and run through normal as far as we can get in a single night, because we've already proven we can get through 5 bosses. And it's possible maybe we can get through 6 if we're quick and we're efficient. And I think that the heroic gear would actually, make everybody a little bit stronger, even, so that if we do get to a point where, we're stuck on a boss in heroic, we might even be able to do a full clear in a single night on our second night in normal, to get extra gear for folks that way too.
Pistol, what do you think?
Probably, yeah, I'd agree with that, although I might want to incrementally change it so that maybe initially we just say we're just going to take the first boss on by itself, and then go back to do it and see how far we can clear on normal. unless we're massively successful and hopelessly optimistic and want to carry on to the second boss.
Yeah, because the first boss it would be the dragon, and the second boss would be the bear. And we do pretty good with those. It's just I understand what you're saying. There's very little trash for the first boss, but then getting to the second one, there's a lot more trash there, and it takes a lot more time. So
yeah, it's a lot more work, and if you spend all the time getting there and then people don't feel successful on the second boss, because the bear could really pull apart our tanks.
Yeah. Jelly, what do you think?
I would love to start trying heroic, at least the first several bosses. I think that I'm kind of torn between what Epistle said and Jobui, as far as let's see how far we could go, or just do the one and then focus on going back and doing normal. It's going to be very important for us to focus on those last several bosses, or last 4 bosses, including the spiders, I believe, to get those down. Because if we don't get those down, it's going to be darn near impossible in heroic. Because normal is the place to learn the beginning mechanics of it, the foundation of it.
I'd almost say I'm saying the same thing that Joe Bowie is. I'm just thinking about a week or two as we transition.
Yeah. All right. That's good thoughts. Out of the last 3 weeks, was there any really exciting moment that happened? This will be the last question on rating. That really stuck out in your head. What boss and what was the situation? And we'll start off with Joe Bowie.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back again to that Cenarius moment when the whole floor was filled and I'm stuck in that tiny corner with just a couple of people, and I didn't realize quite that so many people had not made it to that tiny slice of land that was left on the map there, because it was really small. There was like almost nowhere to go, and I was running across the room as the floor was expanding, and it was expanding right behind me as I was running. It was like this wave coming across the room, and I was just running away from it, going, "Oh no, it's gonna kill me!" And then it chased me right into that tiny little spot that was left over, and I looked, and most of the raid was gone. They were already dead, and there was a few of us up, and I didn't really have time to count. I think it was maybe 4 or 5. I'm not sure, that were left, and people were yelling, well, not yelling, but they were cheering on TeamSpeak, saying, get them, keep going, keep fighting, and I was just unloading with everything I had, and then the boss dropped, and there was mass rejoicing.
Yes, there was. So you're speaking of that wave as it came across the floor. I was stuck in the wave. So I was dying the entire time trying to get out of it. Had no speed boost, and I got right up to where it stopped and I died. So I got to watch the whole thing really nicely. But yeah, I know the exact moment you're talking about. How about you, Lorelei? Was there a aha, that was so cool?
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting us to get Xavius down the other night, because it just seemed like it was being so chaotic and people were learning how to be the sleepers and the non-sleepers, that I was really kind of shocked at the end when we actually got him down.
Yeah, I tell you, that trash at the very beginning. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that's bad trash.
Epistle, what about you?
I think I shared the same moment with Jobui, because I was running on scenarios to try to survive in that last wave, and I think I might have survived, but then I had to pull a boss, and then I died, and then I got back up again, and then I died. But then the boss went down, and that was worth the repair bill.
How about you, Jelly?
Oh, just the whole Xavius fight. It was it was harder but easier, I think. But it's still chaotic, and I agree with Lorelei. I was very surprised that we were able to down him the first time out, and so with thanks from our ringers out there who had gracefully helped us to accomplish that.
Yes, definitely. There was one healer there. I think it was a druid healer that were calling out the dispels, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing that we needed to do that because nobody had ever mentioned on any strategies I'd read or watched. So, but that works really well for their guild, and so we're going to adopt that strategy. So that's going to be a good one. All right, so let's move on to something that we just kind of noticed actually right before we started the podcast. Joey Bowie brought it to our attention, so I'm going to let him explain it on the social tab. Go ahead and explain what you found.
Okay, so right after the 7.1 patch, I happened to open my friends list and notice a new tab in the middle between my friends list and my ignore list called Quick Join, and this new tab is really pretty cool. What it basically is anytime anybody in your guild or anybody in your friends list is queued up for anything, like let's say they've started a mythic group and they're looking for players to go do mythic, or they're queued up for an LFR or a dungeon, they will show up in that list on your quick join list, and you can click on it and request to join their group, and then it gives that other person who started the group the option to let you join their group or not. So like if they've been queued up for 5 minutes or something and you request to join, then it pulls you in there and it will put you into their group without having to restart the queue or anything like that, and then you can go run with those with your friends or your guildmates, which is a pretty neat idea that Blizzard just kind of snuck in there. I didn't see them promote it really or anything like that. I just kind of found it there one day.
So does it spawn you into where they're at in the action, or does it depend on this situation?
I think it just depends on wherever they're queued up. Because I mean, if they're in like a regular heroic dungeon queue kind of thing, I think it would only pop up there if somebody dropped out and it like requested another player and you happen to notice it at that second before it filled in the spot or something. But I think it's generally used for before they actually go into whatever dungeon or LFR kind of thing that they're going to do.
Yeah. So that could be really useful for world bosses and questing, anything that you're doing that you'd want to run with people you know rather than people you don't.
Sure, because I mean it's any group that you set up in Group Finder too, and it shows a different icon. Like if you're doing it through the Group Finder, it shows like a little people, like two little people icon, and then if you're doing it through like just regular normal queues, then it shows the little green eye that searches back and forth. It doesn't actually animate in that, but it does show the green eye for standard queue, and then it shows little people for like when you do a personal group or a group finder group.
I see.
Or
I can
pre-made.
see. I can see myself using this all the time now, because if I'm playing on my DPS, it takes forever to get into a queue. But now I can look and see, as a friend of mine who happens to be a healer or a tank going, I can join in with them. And then if I'm actually tanking and I'm not particular what I'm going to do, but I've got a few friends who are queuing up for something, well, then I can join them in, speed up their queue, and run with them.
Yeah, so has anybody else used this yet? I mean, I just found out about it tonight, so I haven't even used it yet. Lorelei, have you used it at all?
I haven't. Usually I can try to find some guild members who need to run things, so I haven't had to really use it yet.
Cool. Jelly, how about you?
No, not as of yet. I usually check with, some raid members from our raid team and then also my other raid team and see if they have something they want to do and so forth. So I've been able to collect a few battle tags over the past year or so, which I'm grateful for.
Nice.
We see. I'll chat with people though who are, the people you run most often with. I'll send them a tell or chat about setting something up. But then sometimes they're not on, and I might want to run. And there's people who are kind of sort of further out on that sort of social connection who I don't run as much with, but they might be doing something, and that's a great way to make that connection with them. So I think if it's not out of your sort of immediate circle of most frequent rating partners, it gives you an ability to kind of develop that social aspect of the game.
Yeah, okay. So we kind of covered this when we actually did this podcast, and then we had technical difficulties and lost it. But the blood exchange vendor. So, do you guys use it, or is that something that's it's all right, but I need to save my bloods? Lorelai?
I have used it. I've bought just a few little mats that I needed to finish something up, and I didn't want to go out and have to farm them. I found it very helpful. I wish, though, that there were some mats that I would like that aren't on the vendor. And that same thing happened in Draenor with your garrison vendor. That there were some things I really would have liked to have seen there that I could buy, where I only need like one of them, and I don't want to have to go run a dungeon or do something. Let me buy it on my vendor.
Yeah. So just for our listeners, so if they haven't noticed where it's at, does anybody have the name of that particular vendor, or can find it real quick for us?
Dona Bloodthorn.
And she's just kind of kitty corner from the armory in Dalaran. Is that right?
Yep.
She's on the corner.
Yep, standing on the corner of the blacksmith shop.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah. So if you haven't used that, go in there. I personally use it when I do missions for blood, and then I turn those bloods in for resources because I've been really lazy at running out and doing world quests, and I run out of resources to do my quests for my champions. So it works out really good for me. I collect the bloods and then turn it in. It's only 200 resources, but it's enough to do a mission or so.
Actually, one thing I have noticed, because you all informed me, or I knew about the vendor, but I didn't know that they had the resources, and I need to get my class hall upgraded, and I had a boatload of bloods. So I went in, and depending on for the cash or order resources cache, depending on how fast, if you can click those chests fast enough, you can get 400 order resources instead of the 200.
Oh, are you saying that's a kind of a glitch?
I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's just something, I don't know, but I got a boatload of 400 resources off of those.
I think I know what's happening there. Sometimes if you get a unit of something in the game, for an example, like when I'm going out to get ancient mana, and I happen to be standing on one of those ley line things on the ground that spawn from the buff from the dudes in Suramar, and then I also happen to loot something from from a mob, or I pick up a gem off the ground while I happen to be standing on one of those things. It'll say, like, if the gem that I got out of thing was worth 10, it'll say that I got 13, because it adds, the extra that I picked up as well on top of that. So it's probably just doubling up. You're probably getting like 2 hits of those boxes where it looks like you're getting 400 from a single box, but you're actually getting 200 from 2 boxes that are being added together.
Actually, now I kind of checked that and I kind of watched, and it was I had the same number of lines for the boxes I opened.
Oh, all right.
Well, I was going to say that would be the way to check it, is to, get 6 boxes, and if it's 200 apiece, you're going to get 1,200, and then just see what you ended up with a total afterwards. See if it is a glitch or not.
Yeah, there was a situation where I had bought 6 here, as you said, 6 boxes, and I had gotten 5 of those 6 boxes as 400.
Wow. Yeah, so that might be interesting to go out and tackle really quick before they change it. Yeah, it probably is. That's what I was just going to say. Before they change it, it might be a good idea to go out and get what you can. Pistol, do you use it?
I have to confess, I am a bit of a hoarder, and I sort of sit on resources for far too long.
I'm going to bring up a question. We've had this on our list for a while. Mythic Plus, and then Jobu, I'm going to let you explain the Mythic Plus system to our audience, and then we'll talk about how many you've done and to what level.
Okay, so Mythic Plus is basically a new system that has been put in place with Legion, which if you go into a Mythic dungeon, there is a little podium that's right at the beginning of every one of those dungeons. And if somebody in your group has a keystone, they can insert the keystone into this little podium that's sitting there, and then it will put up a timer, that starts the Mythic dungeon, and the Mythic dungeon is then on a countdown timer. You go through the Mythic dungeon and you do it as fast as you can. There's nothing drops loot throughout the entire dungeon until you get to the end, and depending on how fast you do it, you'll get either 1, 2, or 3 boxes. I think it's about 10 minutes left on your timer and you'll get 3 boxes. I think it's about 5 minutes left on your timer and you'll get 2 boxes. And if it's less than that, you'll get 1 box. I think you always get 1 box, but I'm not 100% sure on that because every time I've done a Mythic Plus, we've beaten the timer and gotten at least 1 box. I haven't done a Mythic Plus where we ran out of time. Now, that has a secondary effect. You get that in the gear, that you'll get a piece of gear out of however many boxes you have, or you'll get artifact power. You may not get a piece of gear out of that. But what that also does is it triggers a chest in your class hall. And that class hall chest is openable after the reset on Tuesdays. So for an example, if you do a Mythic Plus dungeon and then you go to your class hall on Tuesday morning or Tuesday evening, whenever, or any day after that, as long as you haven't opened the chest yet, you open the chest and the chest will have at least 1 piece of gear for you. I actually got a legendary out of one of those boxes, so that's possible as well. And the gear is scaled based on what level of Mythic Plus dungeon that you ran. The Mythic Plus dungeons go from +2, which I believe makes everything 8% harder, and makes them, they have 8% more health and they hit 8% harder. And then it goes all the way from level 2 all the way to level 15. And so yeah, it can get pretty tough. And they also add other things along the way as you get to some of the higher levels, like teaming, and I think seething is another one, where there might be more ads in the environment. There might be the ads might drop little pools of stuff on the ground that heals the ads, or heals the mobs and hurts players. There's lots of these little additions that they throw in there to make it a little bit harder as you move up the scale.
So, just because I'm not, I want to make sure everybody's familiar with it. Where do you get the first keystone?
You get a keystone from doing, you can get a keystone from doing a regular Mythic dungeon, and then that keystone lasts for 1 week. I've also gotten if you do a Mythic Plus during that week, you will also get a fresh keystone out of your class hall box that you open at the reset, and it's kind of random. It'll give you the level of the keystone that you get out of your box in your class hall will be based slightly off of however high you got in the previous week. Another nice thing about the Mythic Plus 2 that I didn't mention before is that you can do them as many times as you want. It's not like regular Mythics where you do them once per week and you can only loot once per week. This is you can do them over and over and over again if you want to. But the keystone that if you complete it and you used your keystone, let's say I did the Arcway and I have a +2 keystone, so my group completes it in time, then my keystone will go from a +2. Let's say we just completed in time and get 1 box. It'll go from a +2 to a +3 keystone. It'll get upgraded by 1 level. If you beat it by 10 minutes, it can get upgraded more than once. So it might go from a +2 to a +4 or something along those lines. And then you can go back and you can reuse that keystone, do the whole thing again if you want. If you fail to meet the timer, your keystone will get discharged. And then you have to go do that Mythic Plus dungeon with somebody else who has the keystone, and it will get recharged. But the keystones still only last for the week until reset. And then they go away, and then the first Mythic dungeon that you do, you'll get a new keystone. Or if you completed Mythic Plus dungeons, you should get one out of your class hall box.
Nice. And when it resets, do you you get it? Do you get it at the previous level you were at the week before, or do you have to start all over?
No, you'll get like, all right, well, 1 week I completed, and it's the highest I completed, so I'm kind of answering that question ahead of time. I completed a Mythic Plus dungeon at +6, and that's the highest that I've done so far. I haven't been doing a lot of Mythic Pluses since then, but when I opened my class hall box after the reset, not only did I get my legendary out of that particular box, but I also got a +4 keystone out of that box as well.
And Lorelei, have you used the Mythic Plus at all?
I have. I ran one, and it reminded me a lot of the old dungeons that we would run in Pandaria, where you would get your silver and your bronze. I'm not real keen on the timer things, but it was okay.
How about Epistle?
Yeah, I've run one. I spent more time getting ready for Karazhan, but I did enjoy doing it. And the timer added a nice twist. The group I was with, though, wasn't able to get it done in time, and so that was a bit of a disappointment.
Okay. Jelly?
I have not run the Mythics Plus yet. I am still working on my Mythics.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I did one, and I got an attunement, or not an attunement, a keystone, and I forgot completely about it, and it expired. So at the last reset. So I mean, it's a good thing to talk about, but we're getting close to wrapping up. But I do want to talk about the attunement for Karazhan real quick. So where are we at on that, Lorelei? Where are you at on that?
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say I had to start over again because I ran all the mythic dungeons and didn't have the first quest to start with. So I've got to go back. Yes. I've got to go back and do the other 3 dungeons.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Pistol.
Today I finished up a couple that I needed and actually ran Bronzebeard through to get him attuned.
Okay. Jelly?
I am attuned, and I've been attuned for about a week and a half now.
Very nice. Joe Bowie, I know you're attuned, right?
I am very, very close. I still have to clean up a few of the finishing quests after you do the mythic dungeons, but I don't think they're going to take me very long. I started them, but then I believe I got invited in to go do a mythic dungeon, so I stopped where I was at and went and did some mythic dungeons and haven't quite gotten back there to finish them up yet.
All right, cool. So we always end this podcast with recommendations for add-ons that we feel that is very useful for us. It could be an old one, could be a new one. Joe Bowie, what's your add-on for recommendation?
I'm going to go with Pawn. Pawn has really helped me get my tunes properly set up with the right gear. Gear can be sometimes a little confusing about what stats you need. And Pawn has partnered up with Ask Mr. Robot and has preset weights from Ask Mr. Robot built into it. So when you get a piece of gear, you can see if there's nothing there, then it's not really an upgrade for you. But if it's an upgrade over your currently worn gear, you'll see a little text at the bottom of the tooltip when you mouse over it in your bag, and it'll say plus 10%, plus 5%, and then you know straight away that gear not only has the right stats for you, but that it's an upgrade over what you're currently wearing, and it just makes all of that a lot simpler. And also, when you're doing quests, it'll tell you that if neither of the pieces of gear are going to be an upgrade for you, it'll put a coin icon on the one that is worth more money. so you know which one to select to sell off to the vendor. And it's just a really nice, great way to simplify picking out your gear for your tune so that it's the right gear.
Sure. Yeah. How about you, Lorelai?
I have some battle pet add-ons that I really like, and there's 3 of them that I use together. One's called Battle Pet ID, Battle Pet Counter, and Battle Pet Daily Tamer. And they're really good in helping you see what pet attacks are good against the pet coming up, which ones are bad. And it also gives you information on the tamers, and it also sets up your teams for you, and all you have to do is just click on the team and you're ready to go. And those I've been enjoying, because I've been enjoying the battle pets quest for the dailies in Dalaran.
Okay. Battle Pet's still at max level of 25?
Yes.
I'm surprised they haven't increased those. How about you, Epistle?
Oh, a classic one that I like is Auctionator. So I have a bank tune that's been one of my guilty pleasures for a long time. And so everything I have that I don't want to bother with, I send to him, and he either accumulates it all or sends it off to the auction house. So Auctionator is a pretty good way of doing a check to get the best price for the material. And if you also want to buy some things as well, it'll give you the best way to buy. Because I know sometimes stacks get confusing. Sometimes you'll have a stack of 20, but you don't get the per unit cost. And Auctionator sorts all that out for you, so you can figure out what the real best value is for your hard-earned gold.
Yeah, that's a good one. I use it. I have a bank tune that I do the same thing with, and Auctionator is by far the most valuable piece of equipment you can if you do any type of auction house stuff. So that's a really good one. Jelly, what do you got for us?
I'm gonna side with Joe Bowie on this one and say pawn. I'm still getting things switched over. It takes the legwork out of trying to guess your stats and this, that, and the other, and it's kind of a, now that we don't have and haven't had reforging, we can't get those stats that we need all the time. We're always trying to get better gear, but we don't necessarily want to wait, and we replace it with a higher eye level. And I'm trying to still come to terms with that, but we did have, and it was from our raid, there was a guy who had rolled and won, and I gave him the piece of gear, and he said, "No, you take it," and because it wasn't really what I should have, and I was it because although I had another same eye level, it was because of the stat weights was a 15% upgrade on what I had equipped. So, it helps with that. It takes the guesswork out.
I am going to personally recommend WIM. It's Windows Instant Messenger. I'm one of those people that if you send me a Whisper, I don't always look in the lower left hand screen to see those pop up. But Windows Instant Messenger throws up a box wherever you want to put it on your screen. You set where you want it, and then as multiple people like whisper you, it tiers it down so you can see the newest one. Or if you minimize them all, when somebody responds to it, it pops it back up. So it's really an attention getter for me. And as a raid leader, I get people, all the time whispering me or I'm trying to read raid chat and then guild chat goes off. And it's kind of cool because they put up a new one now where you can set it to where instead of tiering it down, it'll do it in tabs. So then all of a sudden a new tab will appear, But the Windows Instant Messenger, by all means, has saved me from. I used to get people all the time telling me, "You never respond to me every time I whisper to you," and I'm like, "I never saw it." So that's the one I recommend for the week is Windows Instant Messenger, WIM. It's on Curse. It's a great little add-on.
I don't want to throw too much of a monkey wrench in there, but it's actually WoW Instant Messenger.
Oh, is that what it is? WoW
Yeah,
Instant Messenger?
yeah.
Not-
I mean, it's
not Windows?
WIM is correct, but it's WoW Instant Messenger.
Okay, I apologize for the creator of WIM. I didn't mean to say Windows. I did, actually, because that's what I thought it was. So thank you. So everybody, I appreciate it. This podcast will go out tomorrow, and it should work perfectly because we re-engineered what we were doing. We got a backup system in place now, so hopefully this will never happen again. But I apologize for not having a podcast last week. Our listeners, they're diehards, so I appreciate y'all. Everybody, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
And we'll see y'all next week. If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lion's Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.